This is a foldable for section 8.5. And what we're doing is finding that thing that they have in common. Remember in the notes from Friday, I told you that we were going to look for the thing it has in common. And we started off super easy. Well, the reason that we have to do this section is because sometimes they're not as easy. And again, this is section 8.5, and what we're doing is factoring. When factoring binomials, that just means two terms, we're looking for the greatest common factor to rewrite. Okay, so this is the way that I have taught you. We have put this in a box, and I have told you what do they have in common. And what they have in common is a 5. And we usually write it up here, but since I'm running out of space, I'm going to write it down here. That means that something times something is supposed to give me that 10x. What is it? 2x. Because 2x times 5 is going to give me that 10x. All right? And we're going to say that minus 3, because 5 times negative 3 is going to give you that negative 15. That means that this thing right here can be the same thing as 2x minus 3 times 5. If you multiply it back in, you can tell that that is your answer. So let me try it again. What I have taught you is that these things are what's inside. And I keep asking, what do they have in common? Well, you can tell that they have an x in common, so we're going to write x. And then this one might not be as easy for you. 24 and 36 have a 12 in common. So what does that mean? So we usually write it up here, but since we don't have space, we're going to write it down here. I need to multiply by something so I can get 24. That would be 2. Because 2 times 12 gives me 24. And with the x, I don't need anything else. And 3 times 12, 3 times 12 is going to give me that 36. But I already pulled out an x, that means that this one would have to be 2x. That means that 12x times x plus 3x squared is going to be the same answer as 24x plus 36x cubed. All right, so let's try this again. I'm gonna go like this. This is how I have taught you. And then I want something right here. What do they have in common? Like I mentioned, some of this is not gonna be easy because we need to know our multiplications really well. Well, what they have in common is an 8. That means that 8 times 8 is going to give me 64. All right. And then I need a negative 5 and an AB. That means that 8 multiplied by 8 minus 5AB is your answer, is your factors. Let's try that again. So this is the way I have taught you. That is inside. We want to factor. Remember, we're making a box. And I want to know, what do they have in common? 4 and 16 have a 4 in common. That means I have to multiply by b squared to get the 4b squared. And then this one I have to multiply by a positive 4. That means our factors are 4 and d squared plus 4. Let's try that again. This is the way I have taught you. We make a box. Okay, don't be scared. Even though we don't have room at the top, we're still doing the same thing, even though I'm doing it on the bottom. What do they have in common? They have a 15 common. Well, some of you noticed the multiple of 5, but the 15 is the greatest one. And that's what you're looking for. They also have an A in common and a D. So remember, we usually write it up here, but I'm going to write it down here. That means that this is a 3. Because 3 times, oh, no, I'm sorry, 1. So let me restate my error because I think it'll help you understand. I put 3 down here by accident. 3 times 15 is not 15, so I know it had to be a 1. 1 times 15 is 15. And since I already have the A and the D, I don't need to write anything else. And 15 times 2 is going to give me that 30. I already have an A, so I need one more A to get the A squared. I have one D, so I need the D to make it D squared. That means that my factors are 15AD times 1 plus 2AD. Let's take a look at the next one right here. It says when factoring trinomials, it's still the same concept. What I have you do is like this. We're going to write it pretty small at the top. What do they have in common? Hopefully you can notice that this is 6 that they have in common. That means that 1 times 6, it's going to give you 6. And then we need 4 right here because 4 times 6 gives you 24. And then you still need an x, so I can become 24x. Remember, we're factoring, so the given is inside a box. 36x cubed would have 6. 6 times 6 gives you 36, and I still need an x cubed. What does that mean? That means that my factors are 6 and 1 plus, because it's positive 4x, plus 6x cubed. Okay, let's try it again. What do they have in common? And this has a 2 in common. And so I can write 6, because 2 times 6 is going to give me 12. And I hope you notice that they also all have an x in common. So we're going to write x. Just one x, because this one doesn't have any more. Since I already pulled out an x, that means this has to be x squared, so this can become x cubed. A negative 6 would mean a negative 3 times 2 to give me that negative 6. I already have an x, so this is x. Negative 10 would mean that this has to be a negative 5, because negative 5 times the 2 gives me that negative 10. Since I already have an x, that is one of my factors multiplied by x, 2x. All right, let's give it a try. I'm going to go ahead and do this one down here just so I can have a little bit more space. And I'm going to write them like this, separate them with the plus minuses. What do they have in common? So I usually write out this way. They look like they only have a y in common. That means that this one would have to be 14y squared, so it can be 14y cubed. This one looks like it has to be a negative 28y, so it can become a y squared. And then I only need a 1, so 1 times y becomes y. That means that my factor is y, and 14y squared minus 28y plus 1. All right, let's try that again. So I'm telling you to factor. What you're trying to do is find the thing that they have in common, all of them. You might notice that it's a multiple of 2. You might even notice that they're all multiples of 4. But the greatest one that they have in common is an 8. They also all have p's, and they all have r's. So that is something that they have in common. All right. Since I already have an 8, I don't need to multiply by anything. I have a p, so I need another one to make it p squared. I have an r, so I need another one to make it r squared. This would have to be negative 3, because negative 3 times 8 is going to give me that 24. And then I don't need a p, because I already got one out here. I need an r squared, so I can get r cubed. And then I need a 2, because 2 times 8 is going to give me the 16. I already have a p, already have an r. That means my factors are 8PR, PR minus 3R squared plus 2. All right, let's move on to the next section. Right here. It says when factoring a 4-term polynomial, you are factoring by groups. Mentally separate the first 2 groups and the second 2 terms. Factor the greatest common factor and then rewrite it. Okay, so this one's a little complicated, but I want to show you because I'm gonna have to show you again, and this is called factoring by grouping. You want to make 2 groups. So let's make a group. We're gonna make a group with these 2. You're gonna make a group with these 2. Out of these 2, what do they have in common? An x. That means that the other one had to be x plus 4. How do I know that? X times x, x squared. X times 4, 4x. And the other group has a 2 in common. That means this has to be x plus 4. How do I know? 2 times x, 2x. 2 times 4, 8. What happens when you factor by grouping is that they always look this way. That means that we can pull this out. We have x plus 2, and they have this in common, so we're going to write x plus 4. Now, I know that that's a little confusing, so I'm going to do it in a simpler version this way. So let's call this x, y plus 2x. 2y. So instead of calling this ugly thing this, I'm going to call it y. Instead of calling this, I'm going to call it y. But they're the same. Can we still factor out that y? So we have x plus 2, and they had a y in common. All right, let's try that again. We're going to get these 2 and put them together, and these 2 and put them together. This looks like they only have an a in common, so we're going to write a, and this becomes 2a plus 3. Multiply back, you can tell that it gives you the same thing, and this is a 9, by the way. Looks like they have a 3 in common. So that would be 2a plus 3. How do I know? Well, 3 times 2 is 6a. 3 times 3 is 9. And look again, it happens again. These are the same. That means we can factor it out of both. One parentheses has a plus 3. And the other set of parentheses has 2a plus 3. Okay, we're going to keep practicing when I see you again. That's all I have for today.